So my first question for you, because this is not your first Christmas movie, what draws you to them in general?
This is kind of a joke now, and it was an inside joke, and now it's kind of out there. I didn't grow up with Christmas. I never had a Christmas. My mom's Jewish, so I grew up in a Jewish household, and I never had a Christmas tree. Santa Claus was never real to me because I was told that he didn't exist. It was just, so I think a lot of it is probably my mom's fault because I've been so deprived from Christmas that I'm like, oh, I can do a Christmas movie and it can be Christmas every day for 6 weeks. And, I won't say it's a bit of a problem. I'm trying to curb how many I do, but I love Christmas. I mean, I love it. So, but the script has to be there. Like, it can't be, I'm still a little of a different kind of bird. So I still need to make sure that it has something that it elevates women in some way, or elevates Black women in some, like, it has to have something there to make it make sense for me to do it. But Christmas is definitely something that I love to do um, all the time.
You're making me appreciate the fact that I at least grew up with a Hanukkah bush. So I was able to tackle.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the Hanukkah bush. I'm like, Grandma, what is that? It's a Hanukkah bush. I'm like, it looks like I think that's a Christmas tree. No, Hanukkah
I'm
bush.
setting it up this week. The game is on in this house.
It's on. It's on. Shekels, dreidels, let's go.
So I know this movie is based on a real military drop, but are there any smaller true details that you're really hoping viewers pick up on?
Somebody who I think would be surprised that I'm even mentioning him right now, his name is Brother Bruce. He's been a huge reason that the drop happens every year, and he goes all over to make sure that it all comes together. He's the real Santa Claus, and he's really the MVP to me. So that's a little. He's in the film, and he's one of the most humble, amazing, brilliant, loving, and giving, selfless people I've ever met. And he's real. He's not some character written in the script that just makes a quick cameo. He's a real person, and people like that exist. Like, they exist. And so, it makes you want to, like, pull up and just do better and give more and be more present and be more loving, because he's just the real deal.
I might have been Googling him like crazy after watching the movie.
Yes, yeah, he's amazing. I saw him, and I hadn't seen the movie before, and I did a watch party with the fans, and he came on the screen, and I tell you, I started to cry. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm crying on camera again. Like, but I didn't even care because he's just so amazing. He's just that special. He really is.
I'm also mighty curious about your experience filming in Guam. What is something specific to the production process there that you have yet to experience anywhere else?
Well, they never shot a movie in Guam before. Like, we were the first, and it felt like it. Like, we made it all work, and everyone came together, from the Anderson Air Force Base to the locals. Like, they pulled it together for us. I love being hot. I am, my mom's Jewish, but my dad is African. I love my heat. But it got hot. It got real hot. And I turned into Larry David a couple times, and I was schwitzing a lot, but I had a fantastic time, and we had a lot of support. We had a great medic that was making sure that everyone was not passing out. And it was phenomenal. We were so supported, and we were so protected, and everyone came together like the most incredible team to make this movie what it turned out to be, for sure.
What about filming on an active Air Force base? Because when I read that, for your sound department in particular, I don't understand how that works.
Well, I'm glad they didn't quit on us, because there were times where Alex and I looked at each other and we're like, we're just going to have to ADR this whole scene. Like, there's a full jet flying over us. It's like us having a conversation and like multiple jets flying in every direction, and lieutenants and people calling out things, and it was intense. Like, I remember watching, I think it was like the Actors Corner, something with Jim Carrey, and they asked him what acting is like, and it's like, well, it's like acting, like acting class, but you just have a bunch of tennis balls being thrown at you all the time. This was that times 1,000, and I am so easily entertained anyways. I was like like I was like really enthralled by everything. But we actually got a movie done and it came out great. So that's the point. And we're not going to get in the way of the Air Force. That's what we're not going to do.
Not get in the way, but did you get the opportunity to actually experience flying?
Yeah, they took us up in a C-130. I believe that's what it's called. Don't quote me, but I do think it's called a C-130. And in jets, and the Navy took us up in a helicopter that, by the way, had no door. And that was really amazing. They took us everywhere. They made sure that we had everything we needed to make this authentic, and it was sometimes like really authentic, but I appreciated all of it because it's an experience. I don't know I'll ever have that experience again, you know what I mean?
Now I have to follow up. What is an example of a time when it got really authentic?
um the Air Force, they're badasses, especially the women. And one of the pilots, she did a couple cool moves, and while we were in the air, and Alex, of course, was like, "Yeah, right!" And I was like, "Ah!" And it was one of those kind of moments where it's like I was like on the ceiling. It felt like, but it was so cool, and we were so grateful for their time and their badassery. It made me definitely look at myself and say, "What are you doing?" Yeah, they were amazing.
So I wanted to end on an unrelated question because I was reading what you said recently about wearing wigs and not changing your look unless a role absolutely called for it. And I think it's important to speak up about those things, but I think speaking up about them can be scary for some folks out there. So what are some actionable lessons or approaches that you put to use on the projects that you work on that might help someone else out?
I think it's about having conversations, about having honest conversations, about being honest with yourself and who you are, and not trying to, a lot of us, especially if you're an actress or you're in entertainment, you kind of almost have this disease to please because there's like so much rejection in Hollywood when you finally do get that role or you are able to be a part of a project. You just don't want to ruffle any feathers, especially if you are the only one of your kind, if you are the only Black person or the Asian person or LGBTQIA character, you really want to sometimes fall in line. And I think that there's a way to be respectful, but also challenge something stylistically, visually, that might, in a way, elevate people's consciousness or their awareness. For me, I'm already, as you, I think, know from this interview, I grew up different. I'm just a little different. And I think I spent a lot of time kind of hiding that, or wearing maybe what other people thought I should wear, or doing my hair in a way that I thought other people should wear. And I finally came to this point of like self-love, and that has to translate. And I think that there are times where characters call for straight hair or curly hair or an afro, or I want to wear my hair in curls or whatever it is. But these have to be honest conversations about why people, executives, writers, are making certain decisions for characters. And I'm now more comfortable having uncomfortable conversations, because they need to be had, because we want to talk about love, and we want to talk about acceptance, and we want to talk about diplomacy, and we want to talk about all those things. But unfortunately, there's not enough diversity in Hollywood. And when you're able to really showcase, different kinds of people on screen, that translates into how people relate to each other in the real world. And I think that that's really what it's about. It's about how we treat each other, and there's no more discrimination, and there's no more racism, and everyone really accepts each other for who they are. But we have to come as who we are first.
Absolutely. I appreciate your voice in that department. And again, huge congratulations on this movie. It is
so much.